Okay, so what have we done? We figured out that there are special things that can happen that where the compiler says, nope, you need to prove to me that this was a safe operation. We don't quite have enough, so we'll revisit this next week, and then likely we will have covered 99.9% of anything related to those optionals. We'll revisit, so we'll actually see how optionals are created behind the hood, under the hood. We'll actually be able to create our own optionals that are not just 2 values, but multiple values, and even other, like not just nothing or a value. We could have whatever we want. Very cool, cool technology behind the scenes there. But yeah, not this week, and also probably not next week. So yeah, optionals allow us to make sure that the compiler can help us when there's something that can be unsafe. We saw the number formatter here, and let's make. Oh yeah, one other thing we wanted to do was we wanted to be able to change the tip. So we'll see another. View component for that. So first of all, let's maybe make it so that our app can display the tip. So let's just add a text here. Let's really quickly have the tip displayed. Let's build that to the simulator real quick, and we'll run into a familiar issue. So this is not what a percentage should look like, 0.20000. Again, the drive, you might be tempted to format this yourself. Okay, percentage can't be that hard. Let's multiply by 100, make it so it doesn't display any zeros. We don't have to do that. We can just, so we could, again, use a number formatter. Instead of currency, you could say percent or percentage. I'll just show you the newer thing that is much shorter. We can just say formatted and then percent. That's all we have to do. That's taken care of. Let's take a look at that. So nice, we now have a nice percentage there. And let's now do a way that we can pick a percentage. And so how do we do this? Let's create a list of percentages here. So I think we haven't really seen arrays yet in Swift, right? So hopefully everyone is familiar with what an array is, seeing nods. So in Swift, arrays can have one type in them. So if I'm saying I want an array of doubles, I can do that. And then we can say, like, we can put all of the percentages here, maybe a 0.5 for the Germans who are tipping, 0.05, 0.1, 0.15, 0.2, and 0.25. So maybe we have those as our options. So this is an array of doubles. So I wouldn't be able to put a string in here. So this is not allowed in Swift. So if we want arrays where there's multiple kinds of things in there, we have to jump. So there's a very dirty way to do it, which is just saying any. But this is a very unswift thing to do. We're not really supposed to use any anywhere. In probably 2 weeks, we'll see a cool way to mix types inside arrays and in other places. So again, in a type-safe way that makes it so the compiler can help us not make mistakes. But yeah, so let's say these are the tip amounts that we want to choose from, we now have a new view component that we can use, which is called the picker. And it's not showing up there. Oh, I think because I have the canvas hidden. Oh, and I'm not on views. Here we go, picker. So let's grab the picker, and it'll actually replace our just text that we have here. So let's maybe just build this and see what the picker does as a component, and then we go through what we have here. So the picker has a way for us to indicate that this is something that we can click, and then here the boilerplate gave us 1 and 2, so we can pick. Actually, we can't pick right now because of the way that it's constructed. But yeah, so we want this picker component to drive the ability to change our tip percentage here. So let's take a look at what we have here. So we have our picker view, and so we have a lot going on here. So we have multiple multiple parameters. To me, this looks a little messy, and what I like to do is just separate when there's more than when the line becomes cluttered, I like to put the parameters each on their own line. It's just personal preference, slightly easier for me to read. And then we can go through them line by line, which is nice. So, yeah? Yes. Oh, extensions on Xcode. There used to be, then they took them away, and I think now it's possible again. Yes. Yeah. Yes, they came back. So we have a picker, and then we have a section which we apologies. So we have a selection. So what is the selection? Whatever we pick in this picker, this is what is being picked. So similar to our text field, whatever we're typing, this is what's being typed. For a picker, whatever we're picking, this is what's being picked. So we want to be picking doubles. So let's make our tip here also a state property, and that has to be a variable. And then for a selection here, and if we go to our picker, definition, the selection is a binding. Picker selection is a binding, so we can pass in our tip as a binding. So $tip, and now the picker, whatever we're picking, will update our state variable, our tip state variable. So for all our calculations, for everywhere where it's viewed, it'll just magically update, which is pretty lovely. And then, so yeah, for the label, so I think we don't actually need, I think we can do that slightly easier. Let's see. Label, tip picker. Yes. So we can just, this is a slightly more verbose way to create the picker. We can just maybe like this, %. And now we can say what we want displayed there. So we're going to see another type of view here, the for each view, which might seem a little bit confusing here. We'll introduce it right now. We don't have that much time left here. But what this does is we can pass in an array or some sort of a collection, and it'll create a view for each of those. So it's kind of a way to represent arrays as individual components. So let's pass in the percentages here. We have to now make sure that they are identifiable by a specific thing. We're going to wave our hands here for a second. We'll talk more about what this means, what we're doing here. One second. There we go. Just know that this way. We'll clarify what this means a little bit later. But yeah, so we have a view that takes every element in our percentages here, and then we have access to it here. And now we can do something with it. So in this case, and then the percent will be a double. There's some funny syntax here that we'll go over next week. And then we now can create a view for each of these. So let's do just a text, and then we'll do our formatted percent here. So percent.formatted as what's going on? No, percent dot formatted, and then I should be able to put in percent. Okay, let's just make sure that this works here real quick, and then I'll explain a little bit more what we're doing here. Oh, and we don't need this one anymore. Okay, so we started with 20%, so that's correct. And now we have all of those options that are in our percentages array nicely formatted the way that we would want to read a percent, because we have percent.formatted here. So we're doing something for each of these percentages here. So 5% right here, 10% right here, 15% right here, 20, and so on. So for each of these percent values, we are showing a label where we're nicely formatting the percent here. And then if we are selecting something, so this updates, and since we are passing in the where is it? Sorry, picker here. We're passing in the tip as a binding, so we now updated this tip state here. So if I go 25, we now updated this tip. Let's prove it. Let's put in $100 again. Calculate. We have $25. Let's go to 5%. $5. So the picker again needs a binding. So we're passing in the parent state. The parent owns the state. We're passing it in as a binding, and then so here we're describing what each of these options that we can pick from should look like. So we can have different views here. It can look different if we wanted to. So we have full control over, we have control over, some control over what this looks like. And then yeah, so this we've already seen. So we're displaying a double formatted as percent, and then whatever's going on here we'll discuss next week. So yeah. Any questions here? Yeah. If we wanted to update, okay, let's see. So as I'm typing, okay, so I'm hitting calculate. Let me see. Let me think about that one for a second. Is there a different way to do that? No. No, we would not need to do that. Actually, that's a great, yeah, let's do that real quick. We have most of the tools, and we'll see one thing that is kind of cool that we can take from that. So yeah, so the question was, if we wanted to, as we're typing, we don't want to hit the calculate, update the amount. So how would we do that? So there's a cool way to do that. So first of all, let's get rid of all the stuff here that we don't actually need. And let's take a look at what we actually have here. So when I'm hitting this button, this thing executes, right? So somehow I want this to execute whenever I'm typing. So let's, and we don't want a button anymore. So let's turn this into a function for now. Calculate IM and display tip. Okay, now we have a function. Let's move all of this in there and call that function instead. Let's just make sure that everything still works. Okay, so 100, calculate, very good. Okay, so now we'll do something pretty cool. So taking something and moving it into a function, that's shouldn't be surprising to you guys, right? So that's something that you've done a lot of times, likely. What we can do is we can create, right now we have to update our output variable whenever someone is pressing the button. Wouldn't it be great if the output just magically updated whenever we are updating the meal amount here? So let's turn this into a magic property that just updates itself. So let's get rid of the button. And we're going to take the function body of this function. We can remove the function name, and instead of having a default value assigned here, we'll just paste the function body. So and then we don't have to have an output here, we'll just return. Okay, so what we created just now is called a computed property. So we don't just have properties that we can assign and read from, we can also have a property that we can kind of take from multiple things and output it as, we can pretend this is a property on our object. We won't be able to set this property, at least not yet with what we know. But so this property is pretty much just a function that acts like a property, which is pretty nice. Like so, if you think of a constant function, a constant property that you can read from but not assign to, but you don't know where this property gets assigned, this is what we just did. So a computed property, we can compute its value based on other things. Does that make sense? And if I'm not mistaken, so we can completely get rid of the button here now. If I'm not mistaken, we just created what you had suggested. So 100 A. So how does this work? Why does this work? We still have one state here. So when does the state update? Whenever I'm typing. So whenever this updates, our view will refresh, and the text, our label down here, will read the property output. So I'm changing the amount. The view will get redrawn as far as we can tell. text will read the output. Output will be computed from what we have here. So so we don't have to have something fancy for this one. We can just so this is very common. So computed properties in Swift are very common. So great question, and we would have seen these probably next week. So we'll just see it a week earlier. Any other questions? Cool. I think we don't quite have enough time to do anything else. Oh, maybe one other thing here. Oh no, we don't have the button anymore, so we can't do that right now. All right, so I'd say we'll end 2.5 minutes early today. I think I went slightly over last week, so thanks for coming.